Hello and welcome to Employee Security Awareness Training. My name is Chris and I am the principal owner at Support.Farm. We are an IT and cybersecurity company based out of West Fargo, North Dakota. Support.Farm specializes in IT and cybersecurity for the agriculture industry, and we protect clients across Minnesota and the Dakotas. During today's session, we will be discussing cybersecurity and best practices to keep yourself safe while on the internet. This is a two-part course, and each of these sessions will be followed by a 15-question quiz. Passing session 1's quiz is required in order to move on to session 2. And with that, let's begin. In today's session, we will be exploring the topics of password safety, email security, malicious text messages, laptop security, mobile devices, and the proper disposal of media. The first topic on our agenda is passwords. Choosing a strong password is one of the most important methods to keeping hackers out of our devices and our accounts. Studies have shown that short and easily guessable passwords can be hacked within only a few minutes by experienced cyber hackers from remote locations. And this means that it is important to be using complex passwords and change them regularly for both our work logins and personal online accounts. Strong passwords are complex ones. This means that they are at least a minimum of 12 characters in length, with one uppercase character, at least one number, and at least one special character. Examples might be the one in bold and green, dark underscore exclamation point oceans. Each of these has an uppercase character, special symbol, and number. They are easy to remember as they are actually based on actual words, which are less likely to be forgotten. Shorter passwords are very vulnerable to automated attacks. In the chart to the left, we see that longer passwords with an uppercase and symbol component are much safer to use for accounts. 12 characters in length, again, is greater and is ideal. If you'll take a note, when we are looking at, for instance, the quintessential password of password, if you look down at number 8 here, there is 8 letters in the word password. And at this point in time, based on brute force automated attacks, that password would actually be cracked instantly. So something very interesting to note, and if we were to capitalize the P in password, it would now take 22 minutes. Small changes go a long ways. The other thing to note is that if you do have 12 characters and at least one is an uppercase letter, one is has a number in it and at least a symbol, it goes from 3 weeks to 300 years to 2,000 years and 34,000 years that it would take in order for a hacker to break into that. A couple things to note. We most certainly require that you change your passwords more frequently than 300 or 34,000 years. And this is all based on today's technology, and obviously hacking technology is always improving, and that is something that we need to stay vigilant and continuously monitor. Other password rules. There are other rules to remember when choosing a password, which will help defend against attackers. Please ensure that you avoid using names of people or places in your passwords. Always avoid using dates and the phrase password. Sequential numbers or using old passwords. The recycling of old passwords is always never, ever, ever, ever advised. Examples of bad passwords might include pass 1234, Robbie 1969, or password, or QWERTY 1234, as hackers try popular passwords when they try to break into systems. When and why, or when should I just change my password? While many corporate devices have complex password policies which are already in place, it is important to remember that you may have personal laptops, personal email and storage devices, and other accounts which also might require passwords. Please ensure that they have strong passwords set and turn on any two-step verification or multi-factor authentication where available on your accounts. Make sure that these passwords are changed frequently to lessen the risk of compromise. It is important to note that we obviously do advise passwords are changed at least once every 120 days, and that will definitely go a long ways in helping keep your accounts safe. For most computers, there are at least a dozen or so logins to keep track of when considering personal and work accounts. Writing these passwords down on a piece of paper is absolutely never advised, and it is not a secure option, and therefore it is advisable to plan for proper password storage. A good option for tracking personal account passwords is what is called a password manager, which also has many essential features for safe internet account usage. For most password managers, there are several important features that will allow you to manage passwords, and these include functionality across devices, both mobile and desktop, a strong password generation tool, a reminder to regenerate new passwords, and a two-step authentication or multi-factor authentication. And at the same time, these software solutions will encrypt all of your passwords so that it is uniquely stored on your device and your device only. Email security and the dreaded phishing attacks. Email attacks are the #1 method for hackers to attack organizations and individuals. The primary reason for this is that it is a cheap method for attackers, and the payoffs can be huge. If they succeed in their efforts, hackers use several common methods in order to get email users to allow them to achieve their goals. The main method is to send a phishing email with a clickable link or downloadable attachment such as a PDF or a doc file. Once clicked, the attacker may inject a piece of malware onto your machine or get you to approve an invoice, download ransomware, or share personal information of some kind which they can use to steal money or your identity. While these emails can be difficult to spot, particularly in busy environments, there are things that you can do and look out for. #1, be extra vigilant. If you don't recognize a sender, ignore it. Check for spelling mistakes. Hover over the email links rather than clicking on them to see if the link actually looks legitimate. If the email seems out of context or to a normal pattern, please be extra cautious and alert your IT professionals. The sending of personal and confidential information. In addition to phishing risks, there are several other risks that need to be made aware of when using work and personal emails and handling certain types of information. Examples of information which would need extra care includes customer or financial spreadsheets, credit card data, medical information, employee information, and sales data, which we collectively refer to as sensitive information. This type of information could lead to significant financial and reputational harm if it is exposed to hackers or other malign parties. It is therefore important to remember certain precautions when dealing with this type of information. This includes the avoiding of sending sensitive data via personal email accounts at all costs. Never use Hotmail, Gmail, or Yahoo types of accounts. These are examples of insecure email methods. It is also important to follow corporate guidance policies on how to ensure your sensitive emails and attachments are actually encrypted. Passwords are used to encrypt data, and these should never be included in emails as it is far safer to text or call the receiving party. It is also very important to double check the sender address or distribution group to ensure that this is correct, particularly with external email addresses. Sending sensitive emails to wrong email addresses can be both damaging for the individuals and the organization. Malicious text messaging, or smishing. SMS stands for, you know what, I don't remember what it stands for. That doesn't matter. Attackers commonly use SMS messages to attack cell phones and other smart devices with SIM cards. These attacks are often referred to as smishing and can be just as effective as email phishing in stealing information and injecting malware onto a network. The most common types of fraudulent text messages relate to deliveries, bank alerts, and online subscriptions to companies like Amazon, Microsoft, or Netflix. This is by design, as most of the population has at least one subscription to one of the companies listed above. Phone users need to ask similar questions as with suspicious emails. Was this text expected? Is there a false sense of urgency that is being created here to prompt me to get something done? And is there spelling mistakes? Was this sent after office hours? And remember, even if the sender's phone number looks legitimate, it doesn't mean that it can be trusted. Hackers can easily clone or spoof telephone numbers to make them look like the actual sender and increase their authenticity. Mobile device security. Cell phones have evolved to become just as functional as laptops with the development of mobile apps and increased processing power over the years. As a result, many of the same security risks occur with smartphones given that they host email, personal banking apps, and sensitive documents. It is important to protect these devices with strong security controls which protect our information. Number one, login security. Ensure that your device has a strong security option enabled for your work and personal devices. Stronger options include facial recognition and the thumbprint reader function, which are harder to defeat by intruders. Screen patterns can also be strong if the pattern is sufficiently complex enough. A straight line is not going to cut it. Phone physical security. Phones are even more vulnerable than laptops given their more compact form, and it is important to have them and not leave them in back pockets or leave them unattended on the seats of vehicles or in publicly accessible spaces. Things that we need to be keeping our eye out for and making sure that we follow through with for phone security. Number one is phone updates. Cell phones require updates to their apps and operating systems, Android and iOS, on a regular basis. It is important that these updates are installed as soon as possible and if prompted so that security risks are limited. Public Wi-Fi networks. Avoid at all costs connecting to public Wi-Fi networks with mobile devices as there are significant risks to data interception by attackers. And backups. Ensure that your device is backed up regularly using a trusted tool such as Google One or iCloud, which will ensure maximum data recovery across these devices. It is important to just throw in at this point that whether it is Google One or your iCloud account, that password is now the linchpin and holds your security. And therefore, that password needs to be extra complex and making sure that you do not lose it and making sure you change that password on a very regular basis. Lost devices. Ensure that the My Device on Android or Find devices on Apple are enabled so that you can attempt to locate your device if it is ever lost or stolen. Encryption is the other aspect of this. Ensuring that encryption is enabled on any removable SD cards or SIM cards is absolutely critical. And the reason for this is so that anyone that does find your phone can't just take out that SIM card or that SD card and plop it into a different device. If it is encrypted, that chip will only work in your device, and that is it. Remote data wipe. The remote data wipe function is to ensure that you or your company is able to perform a remote wiping and factory reset to the phone if it is ever lost or stolen. This is very important so that in the event that your device is gone and gone for good, you have the opportunity before the battery dies to wipe that device clean and start fresh. Proper media disposal. Whether you are working in an office or at home, it is very important to securely dispose of confidential material when it is no longer useful. Many firms will have confidential bins and cross-cut shredders in the workplace for secure disposal of this type of material. Having a cross-cut shredder at home is also strongly advisable if you handle confidential material, as this is a proven method for making printed material irrecoverable. Electronic media disposal. Your organization will likely have an e-media handling and disposal policy, and this will include procedures for secure deletion of data, physical destruction of physical media, and that would be examples would be hard drives, flash drives, SD cards, that sort of thing, and the secure transport to disposal facilities. It is important to remember that laptops, PCs, flash drives, and company smartphones should never just be thrown into normal waste bins, even if the device has stopped working. This is for two reasons. Obviously, number one, we want to protect the information and make sure that it is securely destroyed and deleted. But at the same time, with lithium-ion batteries and fire hazards, it is obviously never advised to be throwing those into normal waste bins, as there's the risk of spontaneous combustion. Cyber criminals can retrieve information with relative ease from discarded devices and cause data breaches. It is absolutely critical to follow these rules in order to protect the company and yourself from having this information stolen. The risk recap. We're going to kind of go back through and talk about a couple things here. Number one is malware links. Check emails, particularly external ones, for misspelling, a false sense of urgency. Hover over suspected links to check for authenticity. Sharing of sensitive data. Use company-approved encryption methods. Never share sensitive data via personal email accounts, and always double-check the recipient email address. Computer security. Ensure that computers are locked when they are unattended. Never leave them unattended when visible in vehicles. And mobile devices, please ensure that the best security options are always enabled on your smart device, and know what to do when the device is ever lost or stolen. Passwords. Passwords are absolutely important to maintain and make sure that they're complex. They do not contain places of names, consecutive numbers, or the word pass. It is absolutely important that you remember that your password needs to be a minimum of 12 characters long, and it needs to have at least one capital letter and one number and one special character in order to meet those complex qualifications. All right. We have concluded with session number 1, and quiz 1 is now available and ready for you. Please click the next button and answer the 15 questions. Upon completion of this quiz, you will be able to move on to session number 2. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation. We'll see you in session 2.